So if it's your first time with us, we've been doing a series in James, the book of James, which is a letter written to a church or a group of churches. And basically, James is going through a lot of pastoral issues and bringing correction to those. And he's just basically, he doesn't pull any punches, he just goes for it. Just, this is the problem, bang. This is the problem, bang. He hits the nail on the head every single time. And he makes no apologies for that. So just to catch you up, that's what we've been doing for the last few months. So if it's your first time, this may seem, why are we in this particular passage? That's why. Just to give you a little bit of background on that. But anyway, a man started a business. Is there no presentation? But okay, don't worry about that. A man started a business. He was a bit of an entrepreneur, young guy, and he's operating out of a garage, one of those garages that you can hire and store stuff in if you're not storing a car in there. And he begins to be quite successful. So he thinks, what I'll do is I'll move out of the garage and I'll get myself just a little storage unit. And he's got a little storage unit, excuse me. And then he begins to be a bit more successful. So he goes, I'll step things up a bit. And he gets a little warehouse. He's got a little corner of a warehouse. And then he begins to be a bit more successful when he thinks, what I need to do is build a purpose-built factory for my business. And so what he does is he buys a piece of land, it's demolished, and then he's got the blueprints, the architects, planning permission, let's all go. And then as they break ground that night, the man dies. Tragedy. No family. He thought, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invest in my business, and then I won't have any, I'll deal with the family stuff once my business is ready. And what happened was this guy, this isn't a true story, I've just made this up. It may bear a relation to a similar story or something that happened in real life, but I'm not basing it on anyone. And so what's happened is this guy, he's invested all of his life into doing this plan, and actually it's of no good to him. All of his wealth that he has accrued just goes straight to the tax man. No dependents to leave it on, no relatives to leave it to. He's made a plan. He's prepared himself to do this thing, and actually he's lost his life before he's even got a chance to do it. And that's, if you're not aware, that's a slight retelling of a parable that Jesus told in Luke chapter 12 about a man who his fields were so abundant, like his crop was so abundant that he destroyed his barn and said, I'm going to build myself some new barns. And actually God came to him that night and said, you foolish man, I'm going to demand your soul of you tonight, and you've spent all of your life trying to get these barns built for this grain and possessions. And it got me thinking about unexpected news. And maybe you have experienced some unexpected news, a bit of a, oh my goodness, that was a real bolt from the blue, as they say. That just hit me straight between the eyes. I was not expecting that. It might be a good thing. It might be, oh my goodness, we're having another baby. Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that. Now that's not an announcement. That's just that's just an example of some unexpected news. It might be, oh my goodness, we're downsizing at work and I'm going to be made redundant. I wasn't expecting that. I've got a mortgage to pay. I've got bills to pay. I've got plans in place based on my salary. It might be, I thought it was just a routine checkup. I didn't realise there was something a bit more serious. We can be hit with unexpected news. Sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's not so good. But I just was thinking about that because of a question that James asks. James asks this question in the passage we're going to look at today: what is your life? I wonder how each of us would answer that question this morning. If you were stood next to me here and I said, what is your life? And I held the microphone to you, what would your response be? In front of all these people, you might say, my life is going well. My life is exciting, it's fun, it's full, I've got lots of friends. How might you respond if you were answering anonymously on a bit of paper? What is your life? My life is it's a bit of a mess, actually. It's complicated. It's out of control. How would you answer that question? What is your life? This morning I want us to look at what James says our lives are, and then draw out some principles from that will hopefully enable us to better answer the question, what is my life? So if you've got a Bible, turn to James chapter 4. It should come up on the screen if you haven't got a Bible. There you go. James chapter 4, and we're down at verse 13. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make profit. You do not yet know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance, and all such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. And this is a passage that can appear quite simple, and I think it is in some senses. There's very simple meaning, very clear meaning to this passage. But I wanted to just pick out a few things from that and then focus in on one or two of those. And we've seen through our series that James doesn't pull any punches. He's working his way through this long list of pastoral issues. How are you looking after the poor? You say you've got faith, but where's your actions? He's working through this list of pastoral issues. And he echoes a theme here from chapter 1, verses 9 and 11, where he talks about the rich in their pursuit for money, they'll fade away like grass, like flowers of the grass will just... The sun comes up, scorches the flowers, and what looked like a lush green field the next day looks like withered, brown, crunchy grass. And he echoes that theme again. He says, you say, today or tomorrow we'll go into such and such a town and we'll trade and we'll make a profit. But he says, you don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't know what the day after is going to bring. How can you say what you're going to do in a year's time? And so he says, your life, our lives, are like a mist, like a puff of smoke. Gone. James is bringing correction against the arrogant bragging. In this letter, he's bringing correction against this arrogant bragging of individuals who are so impressed with themselves and how well they can plan that they say, this is what we're going to do, and, it could be today, it could be tomorrow. We'll go there, we'll show everyone how great we are because we're guaranteed to make a profit. It doesn't matter when we go, it doesn't matter what we do, we'll make a profit. He's challenging their attitude of pride and self-reliance, which I find just bizarre because pride and self-reliance are two things that a Christian, I don't know how, if you're a follower of Jesus, you equate those things to yourself. He's teaching them a better way. He says, instead of saying, we're going to go and do this because we're so good, he says, you should start with this. If the Lord wills, we'll do this or we'll do that. This morning I want us to hear James's challenge and encouragement. I want to see how that applies to us by looking at two questions. What does it mean to be a mist? And how should we plan? So if we look at verse 13 again. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make profit. These people there, if you look at verse a bit later on, it says, all such boasting is evil. You boast in your arrogance. It's their overconfidence in themselves that is James's issue. It's not his issue with planning. It doesn't say, don't make a plan, don't have a plan. It doesn't say just, sit there. Something's going to happen eventually. Someone will drift past me. It doesn't say that. He says, the issue is how you're doing it, not what you're doing necessarily. James cuts through their self-assurance with a heavy dose of reality, saying, what is your life? you're like me. You're a mist. You'll be here, and then a gust of wind will come, or someone will wave their hand, and it will be gone. What does it mean to be a mist? I don't know if you're... ignore that picture for a second. Thankfully, he's a mist as well. I don't know if you're like me. I'm going to make a blanket statement. My wife finds it frustrating when I make blanket statements, usually because she then corrects me, and I go, oh yeah. But generally, boys are stupid. Like, that's, I think, hopefully that's... half the room agree, half don't, because they're lying to themselves, or they're a boy and they're too stupid to understand the question. No, but generally, as teenagers, boys are stupid. If you are so inclined and you look up videos of people hurting themselves on YouTube, I'd say 80 to 90% of those are boys, or there's usually boys around who have convinced a girl to do something stupid. But generally, when people are hurting themselves, it's boys that are doing it, because boys are stupid. And when I was at school, we used to do this thing. I'm being, hopefully you'll recognise I'm being a little bit facetious. But when I was at school, we used to do this thing where you would, this part of the ear, or even the top bit was really quite good, just give it a little flick. Sneak up behind someone, got them. And you knew that it was a good day to do it when you walked out of your house door and you closed the door behind you and a mist came out. You knew that was the day. That was the day, because people's ears were going to be a little bit red because it was cold. And most people didn't have long hair. They had short back and sides, or French crop, or whatever the fashion was at the time. And it was... a French crop is a fancy name for short back and sides, in case you didn't know that. Their ears were a little bit red, and you just get them. But you knew it was a good day, because when you breathed out, you could see like a vapor. But and it's gone. You wave your hand, it would disappear quicker. A mist. That's what James says our lives are like. A mist that's just gone. Or like when you strike a match and there's a little trail of smoke, and it's there, and you can sort of see it, and if you leave it, it's fine. Wave your hand like that, gone, dissipates, completely gone, a mist. So James is using this idea of a mist, a puff of smoke, to convey two ideas to his readers. That you're not in control, and you're not here for very long. That's what James is saying. Your life is like a mist, like a breath. It's here, and then it's gone. You're not in control. How can you say that today or tomorrow we'll go and do this? You're not in control. You're not here for very long. So what lessons can we take from that? That we're not in control and that we're not here for very long. Well, I think it means we need to have a balanced view of ourselves. We need to have an awareness of both our limitations and our achievements, what we can do. I love the analogy of when people say, "Oh, you're a beautiful snowflake." Maybe no one's ever said that to you, but people often think that. They go, "Oh, I'm just an individual. I'm like a snowflake. There's no two of me. There's no two of me that are alike." And that I think that's a brilliant analogy, because snowflakes are, I'm told this is true, and I've heard lots of people say it's not, and then other people go, "No, it is definitely." I've met a snowflakeologist or whatever they're called. A snowflake is completely unique. And if you melt it down, you've got like a little drop, and then if you refreeze it, apparently it goes back into the same formation of snowflake that it was like before. I don't know if you knew that. I'm told that's true. So you can look that up and dispute that, but the point being that a snowflake is really, they're nice, aren't they? Have you ever seen a close-up picture of a snowflake? They're very pretty, very individual, quite spectacular. But a snowflake on its own is a bit not really up to much, is it? What's a snowflake going to do? You could maybe keep it in some sort of preservation thing, but actually you get it out, it just melts in your hand, it's a drop of water, flick it away. A snowflake on its own is nothing. So I like the analogy of I am like a snowflake, Because individually, I'm spectacular, but actually I'm not much use. Now, you might have known that already, but this is new information to me. Form over function, that's the story of my life. But if you get a whole group of snowflakes, in this country, not even many snowflakes, maybe 5 or 6, and, you bring the country to a standstill. But, you get you get an army of snowflakes, as it were, and it, poof, on the ground, that is it. Chaos is ensuing. So I think not to think too highly of ourselves, have a right view of our understanding that as an individual, I could maybe do a little bit, but as a body, we can do so much more. That's what we're designed for. We're made to be working together, to function as a body. We need each other to function correctly and to fulfill the purposes that God has for us as a church and as an individual. I can't fulfill the destinies that God has for me unless we as a church are working together properly. The plan that God has for my life is directly impacted by all of you. How many people have heard of a guy called Mordecai Ham? Mordecai Ham? No? Anybody? You have? Jerry has. Jerry knows his stuff. How many people have heard of Billy Graham? Yeah, okay. So Billy Graham was saved at a revival meeting held and where the preacher was a guy called Mordecai Ham. So you might not be Billy Graham, but you can be a Mordecai Ham. You can be someone who, this person that I got saved, they spoke to someone else, and then they spoke to someone else, and they spoke to someone else. We shouldn't be pompous or brash about how great we are and what the things that we're going to do, but neither should we be down on ourselves and thinking, I'm useless and of no value whatsoever. Those two things, we're not, I'm going to be the one that saves the world. Actually, Jesus is the one that saves the world, and he's already done it. He's just inviting you to be involved in the plan. Here you're going to get some reflected glory, but actually it's his glory that you're working for. So it's not, I'm the best, I'm going to do it all, and it's not, I'm useless. When I try and talk to someone, I just trip over my tongue. It's not those, it's a balanced view of ourselves. And that's what it means, that's part of what it means to be a mist. That we're not so proud of ourselves and we're not dismissive of ourselves. But I think it also means that we're so temporary. Gone, mist, gone, mist, gone. Breath disappears. And we're reaching a historical peak, I would say, of time-wasting ability. Never before, and you may dispute me if you're a historian, but never before has it been so easy to waste time as it is now. And that's why Mr. Sai is up there. Just some stats about YouTube for you. YouTube, if you don't know, is a website where you can watch videos that individuals have uploaded or corporations have uploaded. YouTube gets 1 billion unique users visit every month. Over 6 billion hours of video are watched each month on YouTube. 100 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. So there's all of this stuff available. And some of the stuff on there is brilliant. It's, you type in, how do I, fix my washing machine, type in the model and make, and you'll get someone go, what you do is this, and they'll show you how to do it, and it's brilliant. Some of the stuff is like this guy. If you go to the next slide, he'll be a bit more central. He did a song called Gangnam Style, which you may or may not have heard of. It's brilliant, someone said. I despair. Which is a song that's 3 minutes and 39 seconds long. Okay, and when I researched this on Thursday, it had been viewed 1,996,590,469 times. So on Saturday, so yesterday, it surpassed 2 billion views. 2 billion views. So 2 billion views of a song that's 3 minutes and 39 seconds long, and I did some maths, and Townie will correct me if I'm wrong. I sort of chopped off the remainders because it was getting ridiculous. But that works out to 7,187,000,000 minutes, or 119 million hours, or 4 million, almost 5 million days, 13,000 years. Or an average, if we say just as an average, because some people live longer. I know someone who's 109, and some people don't live so long. If we say as an average 80 years, because that's the current average for the UK, 170 lifetimes have been spent watching Gangnam Style. This is the legacy that the current generation is leaving. Now, I'm not saying don't have downtime, don't have fun. I'm saying find proper rest. Proper rest is not wasted time. Jesus slept. Jesus took a nap on a boat. He rested. For me, this is the difference between watching TV and vegging in front of the TV. If you're watching something, you're engaged and you're watching it. There's a stat which was from 2012 that 65% of people who own a tablet, when they're watching TV, they're on their tablet as well. We're not even content with our distractions. We want to be distracted from the distraction. It's like the TV show isn't good enough for me. I want to see what people are saying about this TV show on Facebook. Oh no, I'm watching it on catch-up, so it aired last week, and actually no one's talking about it anymore. But we're not content. So for me, that's the difference between I'm just sitting in front of the TV and this must be something on, versus I'm watching this show because I enjoy it. My wife and I, we love watching TV. For whatever your opinions on that, but we enjoy it. It's something that we do together. We've got a show that we watch. Okay, we're going to sit and we're going to watch it. Actually, sometimes I found myself, I've missed that. Let's go back. Oh, we can't, whatever. But if we're watching something, actually watch it. Be engaged with what you're doing. If that's what you're doing as rest and downtime, don't just. The current epidemic, allegedly, or the future addiction that's being touted as not really understood, is stimulus addiction. It's not porn addiction, it's not alcohol addiction or drug addiction, it's stimulus addiction. People that are growing up, coming through, have to have something. I have to be doing something. I have to be entertained. I have to be engaged with something. I can't just... How long have I been standing still? How long have I not been online? Stimulus addiction. So what I'm saying is, don't waste our time. Let's not waste our time. There's so many avenues that we can just go, I'll just plug into that for 5 minutes, or I'll just do this for 5 minutes, and actually 2 hours goes by. Let's not waste time. But let's rest properly. I would encourage you, if you're going to have some downtime or rest, make part of it physical. Actually do something that gets you moving. It's so good for you. And enjoy the world. I guarantee if you said, all right, I've got an hour to rest, if you spent half an hour, so journey times are factored in there, sitting in Canterbury Park, enjoying the sun and the trees, that would do you that would do you so much better than an hour of watching some nonsense TV that you're not really even interested in. You just, that's on, so I'll just sit here and accept it. We are a mist, limited in time and limited in power. And so the attitude of self-reliance should be completely alien to us, especially as those who are followers of Jesus. Because in order to recognize Jesus as our Lord and Savior, we have to have accepted, actually, I can't do this for myself. And I can see that there's a time coming when my time is going to be up and I'm going to have to give an account for how I've been, for what I've done. If you have accepted Jesus as your Lord and Saviour, you've recognised and identified with Isaiah 64 verse 6, which says that even we've become unclean, and even our good deeds, even the good things that we do, have become unclean. They're as filthy rags. Not just dirty clothes, filthy rags. I don't know what the rags were in your house, but in my house they were like old socks. So socks that someone had worn for so long that they've got holes in, then you'd use that as a rag to clean your shoe. And the Bible says that our good deeds are as filthy rags. So a filthy old sock that's been worn hundreds of times, then been used to clean shoes, that's what our good deeds are like, apart from Jesus. How can we be self-reliant? How could there ever be an attitude of, I'm capable of doing this? Our reliance is on him for salvation, so why, after being saved, would we choose to move and be reliant on ourselves? For me, that challenge rings out. Don't waste time in the life that you've been given. You may have 1 year left. You might have 50 left. You might have, I don't know, there's some youngsters in here. They might have 80 to 90 left. Who knows? How do we make the most of the puff of smoke that we have been given? For me, I think James is saying, make plans, but make them in the right way. Make brilliant, God-centered, humble, ambitious plans and be prepared to change them. If the Lord wills. James says, instead of boasting in our own plans, we should be humble and recognize our position as a puff of smoke, which means that we're entirely reliant on God for our next breath, let alone the next minute or hour or the next year. So to say today or tomorrow I'm going to do this, well, I don't even know if God's going to grant me the next beat of my heart or the next breath in my lungs. Actually, I need to be surrendered to his will. James, in this verse, is speaking against people who think that their plans are so good that they can't fail. And actually, that parable that Jesus told shows that that's not quite true. You could have the best blueprints, the best business strategy, and if your life is demanded of you, that's not going to work out. No plan on its own is ever too good to fail. But James isn't against planning. This is not an excuse to be lazy. If the Lord wills, I'll get off my backside and actually do something. That's not what he's saying. It's not a throwaway disclaimer. It's not replacing, touch wood, tomorrow, I'm going to go and plan and I'm going to do this fantastic thing that I've sorted out and I'm going to be successful at it, touch wood. If the Lord wills. It's not a good luck charm. It's not a rabbit's foot. If the Lord wills, shouldn't have put my life savings on that one. It's not a good luck charm. Instead, it's a phrase. James says what you speak. He's very interested in what we say. And so he's saying that by saying, if the Lord wills, it shows that your starting point is, I understand my dependence on God. It's a phrase that demonstrates an attitude. It's an indication of a sincere understanding of God's control of the world and our lives as individuals. The Bible says that Jesus sustains everything. That if he chose not to sustain it, it would just collapse in on itself somehow. And so James's encouragement is to make the most of our short lives by making plans focused on the will of God. And so I just want to draw out a few little principles that I think are helpful for making a brilliant God-centered plan. So I think James is saying, make plans, but make them surrendered to God. So how to make a brilliant God-centered plan? First of all, we need to know the will of God. Know the story of God. Know the story of your life. Know the input of others. And know how to adapt. Know the story of God. Know the will of God, Submitted lives transform minds. Romans 12, verses 1 and 2 says, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. Submit our lives to God. Anything that we're aiming to achieve, we should be aiming to achieve it for God. It's not for our own glory. It's not my plan. This is my plan so that I can be successful and rich and famous and all of these great things. Actually, it's what is God's plan for my life? What is God's plan for my life? Maybe God's plan for my life is that I'll always have just enough. Always just enough. And every month I get to glorify God because He's given me just what I need. And then I can say, God has provided. God has provided for me. Where I thought there was going to be a shortfall, He's provided for me. Prayer. Jesus is always our prime example of all of these things, but He would often spend time alone praying and hearing from the Father, so that He was always able to keep in the Father's will. Jesus said, I only do what I see the Father doing. I do what I'm told. So I don't try and do all of these things that aren't actually mine to do, because I do what I'm told to do. I do what is God's will for me, not what's God's will for Andy Smith and Dan Townley. If I tried to do Andy's job, crumbs. They figure me out in 5 minutes. Kaizen, small changes. That's all I've got, Make everything weigh slightly less. There's no point me trying to fulfill the will of God for someone else's life. It's not going to do me any favours, and I'm going to be getting in someone else's way. So you need to know the will of God for our lives. Know the story of God. Does the plan that you're setting up, or the plans that you're setting up for your life, do they fit with what the Bible teaches? Pretend, not me, not Aaron McGovern, I'm pretending, I'm making something up. My plan is to have 4 or 5 wives, and then I can have one of them cook a meal on each day of the week, and then the weekend we can all go out for dinner. If that's your plan, that doesn't really fit with the teaching of the Bible. And you could make an argument from the Old Testament, but we're not talking about that. You get what I mean. Does your plans fit with the teaching of the Bible? Know the story of your life. Don't get stuck in a perpetual cycle of trying to be someone you weren't created to be. 1 Corinthians 12, verses 18 to 20 says, But as it is, God arranged the members of the body, each one of them as He chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. Get to grips with your limitations, but don't be upset by them. Boast in them, so that Jesus can be glorified and the body can function how it's meant to. Don't get stuck in this perpetual cycle of trying to be someone you're not. The classic one is being a leader. People say, I'm a leader. I'm a leader. I'm a leader. I'm a leader. Well, every time you try and lead something, every time we encourage you, yes, step out, do it, no one actually follows. So do you think actually you're a leader? Actually, maybe you've got a gift that's for something else to do. And I say that because I think that's probably the recent history of the church is leadership is the one. That is the thing that is going to change the world. And 100% yes, it is. But it's no good having all leaders and no followers. Maybe you're someone and your gift from God is to be an absolutely brilliant, amazing second in command. You've got the leader's back. You're someone who can stand next to that guy or that woman and say, what you need, I'm here with you, I'm standing with you, let's go. And you encourage that person and they get to lead in all of their God-given leading ability, and you stand there and you're like, yes, let's do this, I'm organising that, don't you worry about it, you just think about where we're going, I'll sort these guys out, I'll do this. And actually, that's what we need. Yes, 100% we need more leaders, but we need more people who are following the will of God for their life and content to be in the position that God has put them in, to fulfill the gifts that God has given us. The body has many members. If everything was a single member, where would we be? If your whole body was just a big tongue, you'd just be flopped on the floor. Looked like something out of a space movie, sci-fi film, space movie. The body has different members that all play different functions. You know, there's some people who can paint with their feet because they've lost their arms or something, and that is amazing. To be honest, for me, it doesn't matter what limb I'm using, I'm not going to be able to paint. It's just not in my skill set. We're all gifted differently. No other's input. Get wise counsel. Proverbs 11:14. Where there is no guidance, a people fail, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. Who do you know that you can speak to about ideas or plans that you've got for your life that you trust to input and say, oof, that sounds like a real clanger. They do not attempt that. Have you got anyone who's willing to say that to you? There's some people nodding, which is brilliant. We need to know that people love us, get in a relationship in terms of a friendship or just accountability or mentoring with someone who loves you and wants to input into your life and is willing to tell you the truth. It's no good having someone who's just going to say to you, oh yeah, that's brilliant, yeah, you're 45, yeah, you could still be an astronaut, don't worry, you can do it. It's, yeah, but if you believe you can, I'm sure you can do it. It's good to have people that are encouragers, but that's not really encouraging, that's helping delude yourself. No other's input. Don't just rely on yourself. We've heard several times over the last few weeks that actually we can deceive ourselves. Oh yeah, I'm going to be the one. I'm the one. Yeah, this is what I'm doing. I've never played an instrument before, but I know I'm going to be a great worship leader. Right, give me that guitar. Oh okay. Maybe this wasn't such a great idea. All of those people encouraging me, it was really nice of them, but no one said, actually, why don't you take some lessons first? But you don't have to accept what people say, and I'm not saying that, just hear what I'm saying, definitely get other people's input, I won't stand there, definitely get other people's input and advice, but don't let it crush you, because get 4 or 5 people rather than just one, so that you get a variety of ideas. Not too many, because you'll just be confused. Know how to adapt. We need to be open-handed with the destinies, big inverted commas, quotation marks, whatever that is, with the destinies that God gives us. Be submitted to God and open to him changing what you thought was the plan. And open to him revealing more of the plan than you saw. Oh, this is where we're going. Oh, hang on a minute. Actually, God's sort of veered us off over time, and actually we're going somewhere slightly different. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 9 says that we know in part and that we prophesy in part. But one day we'll know, when the perfect comes, all will be revealed. Very helpful description of the plans that God has for us, of the will of God in our lives. Heard on Friday in a meeting, someone said it's very much like a journey rather than a done deal. You're going to Africa. Oh yes, I'm going to Africa, God, okay. Actually, it's a journey rather than a done deal. There maybe that he wanted you to start on that journey, and somewhere along the way he's got a diversion for you. And we need to be open-handed with actually, I've heard something and I think it's from God, and so I'm going to pursue that as wholeheartedly as I can, but I'm open to God speaking and saying, well, maybe I heard ever so slightly wrong, and there's a diversion. There may be some people in here who are called to Watford, and actually they should be in Watford in Canada, or New England, I don't remember where it is, it's right on the border. So maybe you're in the wrong Watford.
And God's going to move you. But hopefully not, because I love having you all here. I love being with you all. Jesus in Gethsemane. This is Jesus. He knows the will of God. He's in touch with the Father. And yet he says, Lord, if there's another way, change what's about to happen. If there's another way, if you can, somehow maneuver it round, and we can do this whole, saving the world thing slightly differently. If Jesus is asking God to maybe see if there's another way of doing things, then we've got to at least be open to the possibility of him changing his plans that we think that we've heard ever so slightly. Planning and submitting these plans to God is a way of demonstrating one of the things that we value as a church. We value a 24/7 worship lifestyle. We believe that a 24/7 worship is what God calls us to. Worship in spirit and in truth, and that this worship is not a moment but a lifestyle through which we engage with God, who created all and yet chooses to know us personally through his Son. And then as we gather, we look to corporate praise and worship as a vibrant and authentic expression of what God has done for us personally and collectively. We value that, and so we live out that value by the plans that we make and the intentions that we have for our life being submitted to God. By saying, actually God, what I would have really loved is to have been a professional footballer, and I wouldn't have had to work. I could have just gone in, had a kickabout, turned up at rocked up at 10 o'clock, had a little training session, gone for a jog, all had lunch, laid on, someone would clean my boots, I'd go home, I'd just sit there watching Gangnam Style 50 times, then I'd go to bed and I'd get up the next day and I'd do it all again. Yeah, wouldn't that be fantastic? Yes, God, please let do that in my life. Actually, that's not, that's not, I would have, not the Gangnam Style part. I would have loved to have been a professional footballer, and at one point that's where I thought God is calling me to this, man. This is my destiny. It's all green lights. Actually, I was speaking to Ben not too long ago, and I was describing the story of my last few years of playing intentionally, really going for a football, and he said, the injuries that you had and all the sort of things that happened, do you not think God was trying to tell you something? And we were jogging along, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe he was, and maybe I carried on trying to force something that wasn't God's will for my life. And actually he was gracious to me, and, we need to submit our plans for our lives to God. What I want us to do, we're going to take communion together after this, but the band are going to come up and play a song. I want us to consider the question, what is your life? What is my life? Where is my life headed? What purposes am I living towards? And maybe you don't even know. Are you living a submitted, satisfying life with the will of God for you as your goal? Imagine all of us were doing that together. If individually we each put the will of God as the primary goal for our lives, imagine what this church would be like. Imagine what we would be like, how you would behave if we lived our life constantly thinking, I'm a mist. I'm going to be gone. I need to make the most of the time that I have.